This video is going to fall under my accessibility playlist, and before I start, I have to give my usual disclaimer. I am one dude, I am one person, and the opinions that I share here aren't necessarily reflective of all disabled people, much less all blind people. This is my perspective. I can get rather opinionated with this, but I wanted to lead with, this is just me, this is my perspective and opinion, and with all of that out of the way, let's talk Lime scooters. So Lime scooters, for those who may not be aware, are mobile scooters, as the name implies, that are electronic and self-propelled enough to get going pretty quickly. They are very heavy, and they are prevalent. And they are present in the city of Rochester from, I believe, today, which is April 9th as of recording, all the way through kind of the end of summer. So I think that puts, I don't know, August, September, October maybe even, in the picture for these. And as a concept, as a means of transportation, electronic scooters are not in and of themselves a problem. The problem comes with Lime specifically and their inability and unwillingness to, number one, enforce any consequences. Number two, to increase awareness and safety for how they should be used or enforce either of those things. And also just to make their policies and their restrictions something that people, I guess, have to follow, which I guess folds into number two. But what I want to talk about is, because they're not going anywhere, because they are really present in Rochester and in other cities around the country and around the world, I wanted to talk about my perspective on them as a blind person, some do's and don'ts, and how you can better serve those around you by either riding safely or observing some actions that might help those around you. So for me personally, I navigate using a white cane, and I'm often on the sidewalk. Now, Lime scooters are not supposed to be ridden on the sidewalks. They are vehicles. They are supposed to be ridden where vehicles go, which is in the street. However, this often does not happen. So I have almost been hit so many times. I've been clipped by handlebars of people speeding and just not caring. Please pay attention to what's around you. I can't make you do it, but you are much more capable of paying attention as someone who can see and someone who's moving quickly down the road than myself, someone who cannot see and is moving with the aid of a mobility cane. Now, in paying attention, a few things kind of come to that. Number one, verbalize when you are approaching really anybody, but especially those with disabilities or visible mobility aids such as wheelchairs, walkers, scooters, or canes. And what I mean by verbalize, and this is really important, please know which side of your body is your right side and which side is your left side. Because this is really important when you're coming from behind somebody. It's doubly important when you come ahead of somebody, and I will explain that momentarily. Now, if you're coming up behind somebody, what I want you to do is think about which way you want to go around that person. So if you want to go around that person on their left side of their body, you need to tell them, hey, coming up on your left. And assuming that person knows their lefts and rights, they're going to move to the right to get out of your way. You then move slightly left, they move slightly right, you pass each other, there's no issue. Or, alternatively, obviously, hey, on your right, and that person should move to their left, you should move to your right, and you should pass without an issue. I highly recommend, whenever possible, trying to pass, especially blind people, on the left side, because if we have had formal orientation and mobility training, we try to follow essentially the rules of the road as pedestrians. And so I instinctively, if I hear a bike, I'm going to step to the right side of the sidewalk, even if someone doesn't verbalize it, because I am pulling over, as traffic in the United States does, to the right shoulder, and I'm usually stopping to let that bike pass me. Now, when you are coming in the opposite direction of somebody, those roles are reversed in that your right is their left, and their right is your left. So when you talk about which side you're going to pass them on, don't say on your right and then you go right and pass them, because that's now on their left. So you have to understand how to mirror your rights and lefts enough to let that person know where you're coming. So on your left, you now turn right, still moving towards that person, and you move past them, or vice versa. So that's thing number one, verbalize. Because if you verbalize, I now know you are coming, I can expect you, and I can move accordingly. Here comes the problem. If you tell me, hey, on your left, and I move to the right, but you got it wrong, you're now going to hit me. Because I acted on my understanding of the situation, you acted on yours without knowing your lefts and rights, and we miscommunicated. In that, you said the wrong one, and I know it happens, but you got to be careful, especially on a scooter, because you're not going 2 miles an hour. You're not walking by and bumping into me. Some of these scooters get going, I don't know what their top speed is, but I would assume somewhere between 15 and 20 miles an hour. That's not slow. So there's part one, verbalizing what's going on. Part two, be caring and respectful to pedestrians if you do absolutely have to ride on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is called a sidewalk, not a side scooter, not a side bike, not a side roller skate. It's a sidewalk because I'm walking on the side. And most of the time, I've noticed that people on scooters do not tend to follow the rule about riding in the road. And so they're up on the sidewalks. If you absolutely have to do it, then you absolutely need to be paying attention. You need to verbalize and just be attentive to what's going on around you. Because if you aren't, I can't be. I can't see you. I don't have the choice to get out of the way just by looking at you and knowing you're coming. So that's really, really important. Now, here comes the fun part. When you're done riding your scooter, please, for all that is good in the world, do not leave them in the middle of the sidewalk. Because you know what is in the middle of the sidewalk? Me. And my cane. And the thing at the end of my cane is a cane tip. And often they are rather fragile. And so if I'm cruising along, and I'm a relatively fast walker as I'm traversing, and if I cruise along and I hit one of these scooters, my cane tip gets wedged underneath something and breaks, I am now out a mobility device because you couldn't be bothered to park. Much less tripping over something that is parked in the middle of the sidewalk and taking a dig right in the concrete. Not a good time. So pull your scooter off to the side and have it away from the direct sidewalk. Even the handlebars sticking out sometimes can be enough. I highly recommend putting them off to the side, and actually this is going to sound counterintuitive, but tip them to the side so that when they fall, they're not going to fall onto the middle of the sidewalk either. So park sensibly, please. If you're going to use scooters like this, it's not just for you that your city exists, that your sidewalk exists. It is for everybody. And being aware of that, taking that extra 10, 15 seconds to put your scooter somewhere sensible is going to make a really big difference. So again, we're going to recap here. Verbalizing when you're approaching somebody, being aware of your surroundings, and then parking your scooter in a sensible spot. I know that sounds like I'm policing. I'm not. I'm trying really hard to make sure the environment for myself and others with disabilities, and just other people, other human being people that live where you live and walk where you drive, or scooter, or whatever the verb is for this activity, are able to do so in a way that just makes this system as flawless as it can be, and it can't be flawless. So that's my PSA on Lime scooters. I try really hard to stay even keel because I understand that most of the time, when Lime as a company says you must be 13 to ride, if I have mom's credit card and I'm 8, I can do whatever I want. And Lime doesn't enforce that. If Lime says you're supposed to be wearing a helmet and you don't, I can't enforce that. That's not on me. That's on the company, and they don't do that. If Lime says, please don't ride on the sidewalks, I can't enforce that. So there's very little that I can do in terms of actually making this something that's actionable and enforceable. But what I can do is speak on it and speak to my experience of almost getting maimed or seriously injured by these scooters. And so that's what I'm here to do. And to warn you to just please have some common courtesy, have some decency, find it in yourself to create a better community for yourself and those around you when you ride. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. Peace.